Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and broadcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with David Finkelstein, founder and CEO of BDEX. What's new, David?
Hey, Jesse. I'm good. It's been a whirlwind of a week, as usual. Looking forward to this conversation with the Doctor of Digital Strategy. So this is going to be a good one.
Yes, the Doctor of Digital Strategy. Hopefully we can get some digital strategy healing in place. But I'm excited as well. I think today on Deconstructing Data, it's going to be a good day. I'm thrilled to welcome in Dr. Kyle Allison, as David said, the Doctor of Digital Strategy. Let's bring him in. Welcome, Kyle.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Kyle, we appreciate you joining us today, and we would love for you to kick it off for us and give our listeners and viewers a chance to get to know you a little bit. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of background on you and your experience and how you became the Doctor of Digital Strategy and what you're doing for your clients today.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the Doctor Digital Strategy, kind of a newer brand of mine that I've been, kind of working on for the last year or so, but it stems from a background both of industry and academics, about 20 years of digital marketing experience, primarily in retail. I started my career at Best Buy, working on bestbuy.com and a couple websites they owned. Worked my way up through my career to the C-level, VP of digital marketing at the Army and Air Force Exchange. Most recent position, I've also been a CRO of a small digital marketing agency in Dallas. I'm in the Dallas area. Over the last 9 years, though, I've also been an adjunct professor. And so I found my passion in education. I got my MBA for my career, but I was like, I really love to learn. I really want to impact, the research side of things. So I was very fortunate to work both in industry and in academics as a professor, doctoral chair, a researcher. And now recently, the last couple of years, I've authored a couple of textbooks and books. And right now in my career, I'm transitioning more into the academic world while still doing some Doctor of Digital Strategy consulting where it makes sense, project-based, strategic planning, analytical projects, stuff like that. So the Doctor of Digital Strategy stems from, I do have a doctorate of business administration, and I'm Dr. Allison to my students and in my professor world. But I think from just a Doctor of Digital Strategy, it combines all the worlds into one, right? I mean, if I'm in the industry, I'm teaching clients, I'm educating my employees, I'm driving strategies for organizations, and that's education based, and I'm seeing the fruits of that labor, and I love that part of it. But I also love to mentor and educate students in business schools, and especially those who have an interest in this area, because I feel like it's an area that you really learn on the job. You do. I like a lot of what digital strategists, e-commerce experts, and digital marketers is like. The education is in education now a lot more than it was 10 years ago. But I think nowadays, if I can help educate the next generation of digital experts, if you will, I find a lot of value in that. So, like I said, I write, research, I also profess, and I'll dabble in some consulting from time to time. And that's who I am today, is the Doctor of Digital Marketing, and that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. Love that sort of storyline as far as your experience is concerned, and turning that into education. And hopefully, be in a position today to teach us all, us here and our listeners and viewers a little more about some of the topics that we have to cover. And one of them being the human connection, right? And the strategies for CRM and data modeling. This is a really interesting conversation that I think we have to have, and everybody has to have, with respect to the human connection, because so many people are using AI today, right? And so we lose a lot of that human connection. So I'd love to get your take on this topic.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've just noticed in my career is I love the technology of personalization, marketing automation. And then, over the last several years, we've seen this emergence, of course, of AI. Every conversation now is AI. But what I see with these conversations is that even prior to this AI wave that we're under right now, what's going on in industry, how to use generative AI, these tools have been around for a little while, though. I mean, e-commerce personalization, let's just focus on that. CRM, marketing automation in the same lane, is that, the AI has kind of been there. We're just getting better at how to use AI. What I've witnessed, though, is that, some companies want to adopt these marketing automation, AI-driven personalization technologies. And yes, there are companies out there with some turnkey solutions in that you kind of set it into your platform of marketing for email marketing, social, mobile, whatever, and do some automation, which is really, the AI driven algorithms to target audiences and bring the journeys together. And then you've got personalization, which is that one-to-one experience online, product recommendations, the advertisings that speak to you based off what you viewed, what you clicked on, maybe what you bought in the past. And that's the surface level though. So where I'm going with this is the technology of AI is just looking at those things like digital activity, views, clicks, and then purchase history and a few other, very transactional data points. What I've learned and what I've experimented on with the last couple companies I worked with and with the research I have done with analytics is that there's an opportunity to elevate that personalization. And with that human connection factor, meaning that we are still human innovators behind the artificial intelligence. I've got this, quote I've been really putting out there, and maybe one day it'll be on a placard somewhere, but artificial intelligence does not replace human intelligence. It augments human innovation. We got to treat these AI technologies, marketing automation and personalization, as they are just that. They're tools. And we can't set it and forget it. Companies will adopt them. I come from the retail e-commerce background, and we put them onto our websites and let it do its thing. And that's fine. But you're going to get a baseline growth with that, and the rinse and repeat habits of, these turnkey kind of what customers viewed and clicked. Well, over time, they're going to stop viewing that product if they've already bought it. The viewing is going to change because of their behavioral changes. So we have to think consumer behavior. And when I go back to the education mindset of consumer behavior, it's beyond just customer profiles, their demographics, and of course, some of their behavioral traits of what they viewed and clicked. We got to build some data sets here. We have to be the ones to actually create experiences to absorb unique insights about our customers, build some attributes of data that is customized to us in our particular business portfolio, which we can spend more time here in a second talking about. So the long short of it is we can't just let the technology just be on autopilot all the time. Of course, from an efficiency, productivity perspective and targeting perspective, you can do that, but we can massage it, we can elevate it, we can be better at it if we build some data modeling that's more human-centered, which here in a minute we can talk about. But I'll pause there to see if there's any questions about that particular kind of theory and concept that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, and I love the saying, and I love the idea that it's really about augmenting human intelligence. It's a human innovation, as you said it. I think that's completely true, and anybody that is relying too much on AI to run their business for them is going to, is not going to see sort of that accelerated growth that comes with that human innovation, right? And the creativity and the things that AI can't do. I think that I agree 100% with that. When you're talking to someone about this topic in particular, do you have any specific recommendations for them about how to approach that? What sort of tasks they should be looking at using AI for, and what they really shouldn't be?
Yes. So if you're not in the personalization space today or marketing automation, then you should use the out of the box, kind of ready to go, plug it in and play to learn the tool. You got to know the tool first. What is it capable of? What is it doing? What we'll call it with descriptive, attributes that you already have in data, which again is the views, the clicks, the customer profile. But then over time, you got to go back to that kind of marketing 101 of research a little bit and understand it better than just what they viewed or purchased. The intent, right? Behavioral stuff, intent, influence, attitudes, motivations, emotions, right? And we can do that through our own curated experiences. So if we purposefully build hypothesis and say, well, what if I did this? And do the A/B testing. But with the A/B testing, right, which is, two different experiences, think bigger than just an ad or a color of an ad or those very descriptive things. Go deeper and be like, I want to build to see the reaction to this particular ad and see if there is an emotional factor of sadness or happiness. Very rudimentary, but that's just a very basic example. Price conscious, raise up the price and see if price does matter and say, or lower it and just do that whole, are they price conscious or not? Build a psychology through curated experiences. And what I mean by that is you don't know what the results are going to be. Of course, you can hypothesize. Sometimes you got to be open-minded and just try it. And then when you get the results, you start labeling the data results and attributes on your own unique way of data modeling them that you're going to use for future experiences. But the only way you can build the behavioral traits is to build the experiences to absorb the data experiences for those behavioral traits. We got to go beyond the clicks and the views and the assumptions behind them. Why not, do some combination of experiences and bring values together that tell a bigger story? Another example I would share is that, of course, like sentiment analysis. Very basic, very straightforward. Text analysis for social media comments, product reviews, what are some common words? Well, why not take a sentiment analysis result set of what people are saying, let's say on social media or a review site, and match that to their behavioral of what they're doing on the website, right? Merge the two together into one data set and combine the values and build our own attributes that label our customer behavior in the way we want to, whatever makes sense. There's some traditional ones that we can all say, like I said, price conscious, passive customer, active customer, fearful, non-fearful, trustworthy, non-trustworthy, as in they trust us as a brand. However you want to label them is really up to you, but you can't do that without a better ability to build curated experiences. So recommendation 1, start with the technology, learn its capabilities, and go from there. Then learn from what you've already been doing, curate experiences so you can build data sets of your own based off activity, and then from there, optimize. So it's really a building blocks of, you can't just use the data without building your own experiences first. And that's patience though. So the thing is, it's about patience. This isn't an immediate payoff. This is incrementally winning. This is, a few yards at a time to the touchdown, right? So part of this is, from a data modeling perspective and analysis and execution, is it's not an overnight success. It's incremental wins over time.
That's a really good point. And I think that that's part of the problem, right? Is that a lot of people are looking for that overnight success, and they don't realize that it takes an investment of time and effort in these technologies in order to build upon them and get the results that you're trying to achieve.
Correct. I agree. And, again, there's going to be some out of the box tools that are and companies out there who are going to be a little more advanced than others. So you're going to get some wins out of the gate. They are going to bring in, like, I'll use an example, Monetate, okay, with Kibo. They have a very robust personalization tool. They're known to be very well used in e-commerce. They've got other attributes like weather patterns and market patterns that are great. But you can still optimize that and say, well, what about the weather is causing what type of customer behavior? You know what I mean? Just because it's cold outside doesn't mean everybody wants to buy a jacket right now. There's people planning for that summer vacation, for outdoor apparel. So what is the behavior model there you can build around people's temperament around, weather, as an example? So again, we can definitely have advanced tools that are going to set us up a little bit better than others. But I still say, with every advanced tool is an opportunity for us to be innovative behind it.
Mm. But what about, like, when you get a new tool and sometimes, it takes a long time to get that implemented with the team, and there's a lot of education behind it. I mean, sometimes it can be very intimidating. So I guess, with all of that, it gets down to deciphering consumer behavior and really where you want to strategize and what you want to do, and advanced data modeling techniques could help us. Could you sort of transition us on topics here and get us into this one, Dr. Kaya Allison, and kick us off on deciphering consumer behavior and advanced data modeling techniques?
Well, that's a really good segue when you talked about, for some organizations, just building the tool or, implementing it is a feat. So let's just say that, and that starts with the foundation of, technology investment, but really knowing your data. So of course, fundamentally, before you invest in anything, know what data you have, cleanse that data, manage it, and know it, because it has to, all these tools for automation and AI have to live off the data you've got or work off the data you've got. So that's 101. But during that process though, know what you do have. It's a very foundational approach. Take the deciphering step with not the new data you're going to create. Because what I talked about earlier was, you're already up and running, you kind of understand it, then you curate advanced techniques. You got to start with the fundamentals. What data do you have? And do you understand your web data and your digital data, right? Like, that's fundamental, but let's be honest, some organizations may not know exactly what that means. So learn that, because you can only grow from what you know. Then you get to the advanced portion, and that's based off the foundation of what you know about your customers already. We're already going to have some innate insight about our customers. We know what triggers them, what's going to drive their motivation on average, because of the product or service that we offer from a sales perspective, right? Or if it's nonprofit, even what's the mission and the cause. However, though, when we're looking at advertising or we're looking at experiences, that's where we can get more granular and advance our techniques So go back to build those experiences, test them out, and then start modeling off those curated experiences that you develop purposefully. Because unless you bring that environment to the customer or online user, you're not going to learn what really is going to trigger them or not, right? But it's more thought than just throw out an ad and see what happens. It is based off history. It's based off analytics for sure. But you still have to then take those analytics, get the results, assess them, or even real-time performance measurement if you want, and then start adding where it makes sense to your data repository. Build your data sets and your attributes as you go where it makes sense, and modify them too. The variables and data that you're using, we need to be comfortable with mastering and creating our own new variables in this process. That's how we get advanced. That's how we test and play a little bit here to get to those advanced techniques. And then leverage experiences though. So we talk about experiences, this doesn't have to be just, advertising. It's part of that. But I think of an example I've seen is chatbots. Chatbots is an area that some companies use it for service. Makes sense, right? Order, issue, whatever. But like there's also conversational chatbots, conversational AI, right? Curate conversations there. Ask good social interaction follow-up questions. Someone's like, I have an order issue. Okay, but try to throw in a conversation there. Or someone's trying to get help finding a product on a chatbot. Well, maybe build some AI there. The curate experiences, all right, I use the footwear example. Online retailer, you're looking for a pair of shoes. What kind of event are you going to? What type of comfort do you look for? Maybe even ask a question, are you looking for environmentally friendly shoes or not? Start building some questions that get reactions and text analysis, okay? And look at the results, and maybe that tells you more about the customer through conversational AI via chatbot, voice assistants even, there's opportunity there. So anywhere where you have that connection with the customer, right? Beyond just trying to observe ads. Ads are fine. But where we have a conversation element, it's very fundamental to go back to text analysis from there to learn from them, but you have to build that experience. So I would say chatbots shouldn't just be service oriented to handle issues. Create a relationship, create an actual environment for interaction to get some data.
I love that. I think that there's a lot of people that don't realize that conversation itself, you're obtaining a lot of data that can be super valuable, right? You're learning something about that customer. And if you're not, retaining that data and using it, then you're missing out, right? I mean, that's super valuable data that can be used not only for serving that customer better, but to take it a step further for modeling to understand your customers as a whole.
Exactly. And the modeling has to be, definitely going to be channel specific. It can be experience specific. But at the end of the day, we all know that customer centricity is omni. So, there's a way to say, where do I execute this? Yeah, you go back to channel management and where it makes sense. But the absorption of the initial data can come from anywhere. I mean, the best digital marketing is not to be linear. We know that. You can't just say, because it worked on email, I should only repurpose this on email or chatbot and redo it on, take the insights from wherever. And it's the same customer you're going to market to elsewhere. So you still go, like a lot of this has to do with, you still have fundamental omni-channel, foundational data standards. That has to be foundational, right? So this is that next level. But I do know there's an environment today where some companies are still trying to figure out how to be omni-channel, how to absorb foundational data. And that's completely fair. That has to be done first, though, before we get to these advanced techniques. So at the end of the day, though, we have to have strong capabilities to test and learn, and they have to have an environment for that too. There's a whole organizational culture play at this as well that I could spend hours talking about on how to coach that mentality. But for the sake of time, I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Well, good thing David creates an environment that is good for testing, and because that's all this was a test. We thought maybe we could go on podcasting and get an engaged audience there. And as you're talking too, you both are making me think of like, well, our conversation right here is data. We can pull this audio out and, as we were talking about pre-show, make newsletters and blogs and other things just based on all the value both of you are offering right now in terms of knowledge. But I digress on that. I know we're getting into AI here next, but just in terms of deciphering consumer behavior and advanced data modeling techniques. I mean, David, anything else you would add on this just in terms of like what with consumer data right now?
Yeah, in fact, to your point, Jesse, I'm thinking this whole time he's talking here, and I'm thinking, I wish there was a way that we could like, you know, chat bot with everybody that's listening, so that we can get an idea of what our listeners are looking for, so that we can always because we're experimenting here. Like this is our 96th episode, but at the same time we're experimenting. We're always bringing on new guests, and we want to make sure that the guests that we're bringing are bringing value to our listeners. So it's always about obtaining that qualitative data, as Jesse always likes to say. Send us your qualitative data at info@pdex.com, right? So yeah, I mean that's one perspective. The other thing I was thinking as you were speaking, Kyle, was also about the perspective of from our listeners and viewers, knowing that a number of them are in the B2B world and a number of them are in the B2C world. So I think it pays for us to spend just a minute to talk about maybe some of the variations or differences in applying this in either of those worlds.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I would say this area of human connection, you call it data modeling, from a consumer perspective, can be diverse and multiplied and sometimes complex, especially if you have a business or service that suits a lot of different needs and stuff like that. If you have a very focused B2C audience, then it gets a little bit more tangible because you already know that target market. But the beauty of B2C, though, right, comparatively, is that you have more opportunities usually to test, right? In digital marketing, we can do things almost daily if we wanted to, but a lot of these campaigns, like I said, take longer or experiences. But it creates a better sample, more data sets, if you will, more analysis, though. So there's that. B2B, though, this is an area I definitely want to look at more that you're talking about it. And what I think I will say about that, because a lot of what I've studied and done is the B2C lane, even though I have some B2B marketing experience, is that we're very client focused. We're very sales focused on B2B, right? Even though it's marketing and digital experiences, there's a flare of behavior there that's a little bit different. So you can still take the framework of experiences, right, and do your B2B ads or B2B experiences of your website. But you just have to remember the basics of what does a decision maker look like for that organization you're targeting, and the decision making process is of course different. So you just have to curate your experience a little bit towards that decision making process, which is about what you have to offer us as a client, what is your service level, what is your value proposition to my end user. So there's some more layers, if you will, and a different type of attributes you would obviously label them as. But I would say you can still mechanically or framework wise still do a similar process. It's just the depth of analysis and time frame you have might just be a little bit different, but that already exists between B2C and B2B anyways. But I still think it could be done. Just a lot more vast and a lot more in depth. Use the word big data, a lot more big data, of course, to manage and use within the confines of B2C.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And from my perspective, it's always been a bigger challenge to apply these practices in the B2B world.
Right.
It's very easy to reach 100,000 people in the B2C world that might be your target audience, or test and see if that is your target audience, as opposed to in the B2B world, when you're trying to run those tests or reach those people, it is definitely a bigger challenge for sure. And it takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more data and a lot more modeling and understanding of that data in order to, run those sort of same tests and get that same gradual progression in improvement in performance in the B2B world for sure.
And qualitatively, we just get way more consumer speak. I mean, with reviews and comments on social media, and just customers, B2C, are just way more willing to give us information. Generally, right, depending on what it is. So that's the beauty of it as well. We're all about whatever they're doing and saying to us. However, though, one of the things about this is that in a B2B world, if your sales are low and you feel like you've quote unquote exhausted all avenues, well, then this might be an area to focus on. I mean, to think of a new way to market, to think of a new way to analyze your B2B leads that you're getting your audience. So in a way, I'm going, sales is all about sales. And so if B2B marketing is working for you, you may not want to do something like this because of pure resource and time. If you're saturated and you've run out of ideas, create some ideas, test it, try it, and just see. I mean, one of those things I'm a big proponent of is just see what happens. Don't invest all your money into it, don't invest all your time, but you just try, and then if you get better at it, the more maturity you are as an organization, then you do more of it. That's what it's all about. I think we got to be a little less risk adverse. This is my mantra, but just try. You never know. If it doesn't work for you, or you don't feel like it's something you can do long term, then make it seasonal, make it project based, make it But I do believe in the B2C world that if you make it work, it can be part of your regular strategy planning. I mean, I really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to your point, I think that there's a term that with respect to talking about mantras is like I always say you have to be willing to fail. So like that's part of experimenting. You have to be willing to fail. If it doesn't work, move on. Tweak it, change it, and until it does work.
And how much really is a digital campaign these days? It can be pretty minimal to try something and learn from it. I mean, it really is.
Yep.
But the technology is expensive. Let's be honest. The tools themselves cost money, but the testing of it can be really minimal.
Yeah,
definitely. We could talk on and on about this and, failing forward and failing a lot, but we were talking a little bit earlier about AI. And so would love to hear from you on how to enhance AI experiences as a marketer, so we're not always so robotic. And so we can stand out, because if we're all just using AI and we're not humanizing it, then we're all just going to blend in with everyone else. So could you talk to us a little bit about enhancing AI experiences and innovations in customer data modeling?
Yeah. So, definitely make sure I add value to what I've already talked about, because, some of it is in the foundation of what I already spoke about. So take all that said, it's also making sure that I will talk a little about culture here, because honestly, I've talked about the data modeling piece, right? And that fuels the artificial intelligence. So when you get that down, what we have to do, and this is a very marketing centric conversation as well, not just artificial intelligence, it's that we need the mindset as an organization. So I do need to talk culture a little bit here. You need the advocates of the technology, but also those who embrace the data management piece as well. It needs to be part of our DNA as an organization to truly elevate the AI. We need the advocates to say how we as humans fit into the equation. And that is the thought leadership through the data that we're using. So we're taking the foundations of data-driven decisions, but not making it so concrete and descriptive, black and white. Embrace the gray area, right? I have a big thing about, another thing I want to mantra, I want to coin is the gray area theory. In digital, there's a lot of gray area. We don't live in a world of linear, and we do know the digital funnel is not linear. It's so circular, and it's a spider web. So it's that mentality that allows us to say at what point in that spider web and that nonlinear journey are we focused on. So be specific. Obviously, a lot of what I'm talking about, you have to be specific and very goal-oriented. You can't do it all the time. You can do a lot of multiplier artificial intelligence, but what I'm saying is curate or build those strategic initiatives behind it, right? Build those experiences behind it. So let the artificial intelligence be the multiplier for a lot of incremental wins and campaigns here and ads there and experiences there, but still build that traditional kind of strategic plan of what are those big nuggets we're after? Where am I going to spend the time on truly data modeling the data around the bigger opportunities? Incremental to get there, but big wins at the end of the day should be what we focus on. But from a tool perspective, I know we're going to talk about Stack here in a little bit. Look at your ecosystem of technology. This is a technology decision too. If your data management is poor, right, your data warehousing and your sourcing and collection, do not get an advanced tool yet. Get that fixed first, or start with a rudimentary tool. There are level up tools out there. In fact, some companies offer a step in approach. You got to model your technology and your roadmap to your data maturity of management and sourcing, all that good stuff. That's fundamental, but that's really important from an artificial intelligence perspective. Artificial intelligence is the keyword artificial. It's what we give it. It's what we feed it. And if your foundational of ingredients and food that you're feeding it is sour, not available, or expired, right? You can't elevate your artificial intelligence. So I'm giving more of kind of like the framework of what the disciplines need to be, because I've already given good details, I hope, I would assume, on the foundations of what to do and the experiences to advance it from a data perspective. But the evaluation of how to do it and elevate your AI has got to do with all of these mechanics that I just talked about.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, you don't want to, just like your analogy of you don't want to eat bad food. Well, you don't want to ingest bad data into your AI either.
Garbage in, garbage out, the whole term. But even more so here, like garbage in, garbage out, traditional. But like here, how can you be advanced if you don't have a way to manage your garbage? I mean, that sounds weird,
No,
but that's the truth. And some
no,
companies are like, I'm going to go advanced. I'm going to go AI. Do you know how to manage your garbage? I mean, do you take out your garbage regularly or not? Like, you got to ask yourself the hard truths before you do this stuff. And you got to have that foundation down. And I'm harping on this because I've seen it
yeah.
and I witnessed it. It's like, I can't even tell you to go advanced if you don't have the fundamentals down, frankly.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think there's a lot of people that like to think that their data is good, right? And then you take a look at it and you find that it's not. And so if that's what you're basing your experiments on, then they're bound to fail. And I know that most people don't like to admit that the bad data exists, but it does. Okay, for everybody listening, it does. There's bad data in your database right now, whether you like it or not, unless you've done this painstaking work to eliminate it. We do a lot on our side and with our team to analyze data that comes into our platform to try to catch it, before it even comes in, so that we can make sure that we're, harnessing data that is only good. But we know, like everybody, there's something's always going to sneak through. And every time something sneaks through, you then have to build a process for saying, okay, well, how did that get through? And how do we stop it from getting through so that it doesn't happen again? And a lot of times what happens is, we're reaching out to our partners, our customers, whoever it is, sending us data. I mean, we built it into our own platform. You upload data into our platform, it's going to kick back and say, here's how much, was good. And here's how much of it we kicked out because it was bad. And then people come to us and say, why was it bad? Our data is good. No, it's not, and we'll show you exactly what was wrong with it. It's important to be able to admit that, because otherwise, like I said earlier, otherwise your experiments are bound to fail.
Exactly. And once you have that foundation built, we'll call it that, and you have that epiphany or awakening, then you have to manage it. Because you're right. I mean, once we get to the advanced portion of any of it, and the same thing goes for like analytics, right? I mean, talk about experiences, just the analytics part. You talk about data science and predictive analytics, the advanced stuff. What's the same thought process? You can only go to the advanced techniques of modeling your predictive analytics, which really a lot of this is predictive analytics. I mean, it's regression analysis, but with better human behavior data. So, but what I do want to make sure I hone in on is the theme here is the human-centered piece is we're also looking at it from the consumer perspective in all of it. So passing the data management conversation to now where we're at is that, we got to be still that consumer-centric mindset. Like, we can't assume, again, when we look at the results of these curated tests that we're talking about and building our new models, that it means exactly what we think it means either. So there's still an assumption here. So in these advanced techniques that we're talking about, nothing's 100%. Let's just be bottom line. Consumer behavior is not 100%. 100% in how long it's going to last. You can't forecast that to 100%. You can't forecast exactly that someone's exactly fearful or non-fearful, sad, not sad, or whatever behavioral trait you want to go to. And by the way, it's behaviors and psychographics. You look at consumer behavior textbook stuff, it's behavioral and psychographics, right? Where behavior is truly their intent, what they're showing in their behavior through actions, and psychographics, beliefs, attitudes. So all that you're molding here and you're labeling into your data modeling. Where I'm going with this is that we still have to make the assumptions, and you can still have the significance score, right? The 95% p-value kind of thing in your analytics for it. So it's still based off confidence levels, and all these technologies for testing at least are off that. And in fact, the AI's algorithms are driven off what they believe are confidence scores, right? You set your barometer at 90, 95%. 95% is the golden rule of thumb. But I would tell you, though, in these advanced techniques, I'd be okay. You want to get a little more technical with how to do this. When you understand what confidence scores are, I would be okay to say, look at the 85, 90%, because you're at some point going to need results, right? And if you're not getting to that 95, your curated experience may need to be tweaked because you're only getting to 85%. So 85% is still okay to make assumptions off of. And this world of data modeling is assumption based. So we can't think descriptive. It's fact 100%. It's definitely directional, definitely assumption based, but we can use it with some good scores. Although we need to be able to be nimble to say 95% isn't always what we need sometimes. We can lower that threshold just a little bit depending on the experience you're trying to curate.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a great point. And there's always the option to further enhance it as you go. So you start
Correct.
with 85%, you learn a little more,
Mhm.
and that enables you to increase your
Bingo.
Yeah.
You get more data.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
That's it. And that's a good point. You're still creating more data for your data set, for your analysis as you go. That's the real benefit of all this is you're getting more data. Now, whether it's useful or not, we'll see. We don't know until you get it, right? It's just basically that.
Yeah. So cool. Well, with that, one question, Dr. Kyle Allison, we ask all of our guests is, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack? So excited to hear what some of your favorite tools are.
Yeah, and I'm going to go just off what I've experienced. I've been through demos like nobody's business. As a VP of e-commerce digital marketing for 5 years, I was at the Army and Air Force Exchange, big retailer for the government and military. They were knocking Salesforce, Adobe's knocking on doors all day long. My job was to assess these technologies and be demoed. So I've been demoed, but I'd hate to give my feedback based on demos. I really get feedback on what I've used, and that's the disclaimer I like to give. I do have opinions about the things I've seen with demos and online, but we'll leave it at that. What I've used though, and what I do, I'm a proponent of. I'll say we'll do 3 buckets: e-commerce personalization for the website, marketing automation for outbound marketing like social and email. And I like to give one on analytics, of course. We'll start with analytics. It's Google. Okay, I've used Adobe Analytics, and Google Analytics is my preferred. Adobe's good for deeper insights, but Google is better for the everyday business, and obviously we know that's the lion's share of business out there. So I'll leave it at that. Nothing wrong with Adobe, but I have a Google Analytics preference. Now we'll say from a more advanced analytics perspective, SAS and SPSS is what I'm proficient in. They do a good job. So leave it at that. When we talk about actual marketing automation, I do have an affinity to Salesforce a little bit. Now, disclaimer, I will say there's also challenges with a large organization and working with them from a technology perspective. I'll leave it at that. From capabilities, though, they've got it made. They're really known for their CRM platform for a reason. Salesforce is a very strong player in the field. And I also think that another one would be from a marketing automation perspective, you have CRM platforms like Zoho's out there that are good for the management of data. So depending on what your execution versus data management is, some are good at both. Some are good at just the data absorption perspective, especially in B2B, right? And then you connect that to the actual execution of it. And then from a personalization perspective, a Monetate. I'll be very honest. Monetate, who's owned by Kibo, strong platform, very robust. They have a great out-of-the-box analytics view too, which you can plug into Google Analytics or Adobe if you wanted to, but just in the platform, the analytics are strong. The tests you can curate are strong, but it can be overwhelming to the nascent because they have a lot of variables you can consider, right? So from that perspective, just know that you may be up front a little bit overwhelmed, but once you just take your time and absorb what they're capable of, they're really good. So, and I don't get paid by anything to say this is all, but I would say just based on my experiences, those are some of the stronger ones.
Very cool. Well, I haven't heard anyone mention SPSS, so that takes me back to my grad school days. That's
probably
a good
why.
one.
I mean, because like I said, I live in the academic world too. That's probably why.
Yeah.
But SAS is great. There's a lot of big movement on Python and R languages for data science, especially. But there's also marketing analytics engines too that people don't talk about as much. Companies like MicroStrategy was big in retail for a long time. There's very specific industry tools as well, but the ones I mentioned are really catered towards retail, e-commerce for that perspective.
Yeah, I could see how brands would use SPSS too. That would be amazing to be able to do so.
Yep, exactly. And the data modeling you can do and the analytics are a little bit more advanced for these purposes. I mean, you want to analyze some of these more regression analysis and predictive analytics type things anyways to understand the behavior and the trends of the behavior going forward. That's really the purpose, is to connect the data science execution of the analytics with this as well. So there should be a team that's yes, data science or the analyst, of course, but then the strategists who help infuse those experience elements. So it's a good combination of work streams.
I'm curious, you mentioned earlier chatbots and the importance of the data that you can collect from the chatbots. Do you have a favorite tool in the chatbot world?
I can't say I do. I'm kind of agnostic to that, to be honest. That's an area where I would say what technology provider would I need to study more. It's probably that I just know that the benefits in general of using chatbots are good. I would say though most are capable. You just have to build the algorithm and the conversation to do it. So there's that.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any recently, so I know that I'm sure that there's been a ton of advancements in them with respect to the AIs. So that would definitely be an interesting one. Maybe we should hit somebody up to join us on the show that has some
chat about chatbots.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of that out there.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, this has been a great discussion. Kyle, if folks want to reach you after the show, how could they do so?
Yes, I have a website, drofdigitalstrategy.com. And you can also look me up on LinkedIn, my name, or Dr. Digital Strategy. So both places. I have a place to, you can also email me, Kyle at drofdigitalstrategy.com. I would like to say too, that a lot of what we talked about today, to give a small plug, is I wrote a chapter about this in an upcoming book that's pre-ordering now, available this summer, in the book called Revolutionizing the AI Digital Landscape, Practitioner's Guide on Sustainable Emerging Technology, from Taylor and Francis Group. I just wrote a chapter, but really excited about it. My chapter was called Data-Driven CRM Modeling, Humanistic Connection, and Predictive Analytics. So a lot of what we talked about, I actually have a use case study in there. So if anybody's interested in learning about this further with an actual use case study with some real data and the modeling kind of process in more depth and the attributes, that chapter is really good. The book's really good too. Also, like to plug, I have some other books on the horizon. I have a new book with Business Expert Press that's going to come out next year, but I'm writing it now. It's on consumer behavior. It's called Digital Consumer Behavior, Navigating the Dynamics of Building Demand. So that's a pro trade book I'm really excited about. I've got textbooks out as well on my website on e-commerce and digital marketing. Just check it out. I do a lot of writing and that good stuff. So some plugs there, but I appreciate the opportunity. Your forum is exactly what I have interest in as a professional and academic. So I'm so glad we can connect, and hopefully this was a fruitful conversation for your audience today.
Yeah, this was really great. We appreciate you joining us today, and for those listening and watching, follow Dr. Kyle Allison, and you heard it here first with respect to his book and that chapter coming in that other book. You'll be able to be one of the first to get it. So follow him online on LinkedIn and go to his website. Thanks. And I'm always posting blogs from time to time and other content too. So I'm all about educating. So, definitely keep an eye out for future things. But I thank you guys very much for the opportunity today.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back so you can, keep us informed from an academic perspective on all these things as as time goes on. But I'm going to throw a QR code up on the screen for anyone watching on video. But we invite you and all the audience members here to get powered by BDEX. And we just want you to discover how our best-in-class identity graph technology and OmniIQ can enable you to forge deeper connections with your audience and drive unprecedented engagement, as we talked about today, with clean data. So just, imagine harnessing the power of AI to craft audiences that truly resonate with your brand, ensuring your marketing efforts hit the mark every time. So connect with us to learn more how BDEX can bring you closer to your marketing goals. And our team is eager to guide you through it. So just reach out. You can visit bdex.com and click on the Talk to an Expert button and get powered by BDEX. And for anyone else who's curious about deconstructing data, we have opportunities for guests as well as sponsorship opportunities we're exploring. So just email us at info@bdex.com and share your qualitative data with us so we can make this better for you. And thank you again, Dr. Kelly Allison, for joining us, and have a great week. And we'll see everyone back next week.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.